Welcome, viewers, to The Paparazzi Scene. This is a show where a team of paparazzi interviews a famous celebrity to see what really goes on in their lives. Because it is Thanksgiving, today we're going to feature a celebrity who has given back to the poor and oppressed throughout her life. Without further ado, this week's featured celebrity on The Paparazzi Scene is Carlin Zaprowski.
Hit it.
Hello, y'all. My name is Carlin Zaprowski. You probably know me from my famous TV show, The Great Debate. What you probably don't know is that I also started a charitable organization called City of Refuge, which serves the homeless and very poor in my hometown of downtown Atlanta. I can't wait to see what questions y'all throw at me.
Hit it.
Okay, so here are the guidelines. The paparazzi will bombard Carlin with questions until she just cannot answer one more. But until then, she must answer all the questions to the best of her ability. Best of luck to you, Carlin.
Hit it.
Carlin! What does one typically do when volunteering for City of Refuge?
Great first question. Well, one would start by cooking pancakes and other breakfast foods in the kitchen very early in the morning. Then, the food is brought out to a location on a footbridge where local homeless and poor men and women eat and talk. Once everyone in line is served once, or twice sometimes, one cleans up and sits and talks with the very poor men and women of Atlanta. You can see mentally disabled people or hear the stories of addiction on this footbridge.
How did working with these people create a greater awareness of their needs?
Before I started this organization, I had not experienced working with the poor and homeless face to face. This organization has allowed me to become aware of the issues that face the poor right here in Atlanta, which I did not know before. Now I can spread the word to my friends and family, and they will become aware of the plight of the homeless just like me.
What exactly is charity versus justice? How is your organization an example of charity?
Charity usually involves individuals and small groups of people meeting the immediate needs of others, while justice involves more communal, even global, awareness of problems and long-term solutions. To make things clear, let me give you a few metaphors. If you have a deep cut, charity is like putting a Band-Aid on it, whereas justice is having surgery and stopping it at the source. Another example would be, imagine you were in a river, and randomly, babies just started floating down it. Charity would be taking the baby out of the river and saving its life, while justice would be going upstream to find the root of the problem and stop it at its source. My organization is charity because we fulfill the immediate needs of hunger, and we donate our time and food when individually working for the City of Refuge.
Carlin, can I speak to you? I was really wondering, how could your service organization create a deeper understanding of something that I just forgot?
I think you mean, how can your service organization create an awareness of a deeper issue? This is a toughie. There are many deep issues that this service deals with. Some big ones are the large wealth gap and inequality, homelessness, hunger, underemployment, undereducation, addiction, and mental health issues. By doing service at City of Refuge, one becomes aware of these deeper issues by seeing them up close during the time breakfast is served. It shows that maybe the affordable housing needs to be done, and food stamp programs aren't enough. It could also show that addiction and mental health are not getting enough help. The volunteer becomes aware that maybe there is not enough good education system in the area. When one does service at City of Refuge, he or she spends much time listening to the personal stories from the people being served. These personal accounts make you aware of the deeper issues, like when they say they have a drinking problem, or they've just got evicted from their house. This new awareness of what deeper issues actually exist here can lead us to action.
What are the causes or roots of the issues connected to the City of Refuge?
The wealth gap is caused by an unjust distribution of wealth. This is a structure of sin, which is a social structure that blocks justice and fails to protect human life or rights. This is a result of the personal sin of individuals. This personal sin is the massive inequality in incomes. An article from the New York Times called The Rich Man's Recovery shows us that even though the world claims to be a meritocratic society, where if you work hard you're successful, this is not always the case. Even if you work hard, you may not be successful in life because there is an extreme inequality between the poor and the rich 1% that hold most of the money. Did you know that more than 60% of the gains from the economic recovery went to the top 1%, with annual incomes of more than $1.9 million? This inequality is poisoning our society. If you imagine life as a Monopoly game where the rich are the number ones and the homeless and very poor that we serve at City of Refuge are the number fives, we can easily see a visible portrayal of how the situation really is. The number fives can barely even get into the game at all because they own no property. Another New York Times article, Occupy Wall Street Legacy, brings up more shocking points about how inequality leads to the issues seen when doing service at City of Refuge. It says 1 in 5 Americans say they have struggled to afford food in the last year, and that the basic needs are near a record low. This shows exactly why the number 5's monopoly have to come to the soup kitchens to be fed, because they are the ones in society that struggle to find food, while the rich are the ones getting richer.
What could be done or has been done to ensure that their basic needs are met on a long-term basis? In other words, what is the justice perspective?
I'm really glad you asked. Reform on mental health has been pushed by Rosalind Carter, wife of President Jimmy Carter. The Rosalind Carter Fellowship for Mental Health for Journalism is an example of justice, not charity, because it goes to the source and provides awareness and a deeper understanding of mental health issues to the media. Shockingly, 1 in 5 people will suffer from mental health illness in their life. And unfortunately, those that do are often homeless. This is why the City of Refuge works so closely with mental health disorders. Rosalind Carter has worked for the parity, or making sure that people with mental illness get the same treatment as everyone else. This is necessary for justice and equality for those with mental illness. Also, clearly, the City of Atlanta needs more affordable housing and food stamps, because clearly, as City of Refuge demonstrates, there is a large number of people who aren't getting enough out of these programs.
Okay, Carter. What is a justice issue related to the needs of the people you serve?
As spoken about previously, the main justice-related issues that go along with the charity City of Refuge are the extreme wealth gap and inequality, mental health illness, and homelessness.
So, what kind of structures in U.S. society already exist to make sure that justice is ensured?
Let me start off with a working definition of social justice, which Brian Singer Towns uses in his book, Catholic Social Teaching. As said by me in my song, social justice is a defense of human dignity by ensuring that essential human needs are met and that essential human rights are protected for all. Justice is a cardinal virtue, asked us to bring God compassionate and merciful love to those who are most in need. Using our new definition of justice, we can see that food stamps, the SNAP program, Obamacare, and Rosalind Carter's Foundation all exist to ensure justice because they all are making attempts to protect human dignity for all by making sure that basic human needs are met. Affordable housing acts still are in progress, and more need to happen with affordable housing in our society. Food stamps and the SNAP program both allow very poor people to be able to afford and buy food in their area, which can solve hunger. Obamacare allows everyone to have health care, which according to Catholic social teaching is a basic human right. Rosalind Carter's Foundation ensures that those with mental health illness get treatment, which solves mental health issue.
If I want to get involved, what further action can I take?
Well, further action can lead to deeper awareness, analysis, and action, so I'm glad you're interested. First, let me explain the foot of social action. There are 2 feet. One is charity, and the other is justice. If you walk on the foot of charity, you tend to be more like Mother Teresa or Miss Shanahan, and you help individuals meet their present needs. While walking on the foot of justice would be more like Martin Luther King, who tried to correct long-term problems in communities. If you want to get involved on the foot of charity, you could volunteer at City of Refuge or other soup kitchens, and then tell your friends about it to raise awareness. If you wanted to get involved on the foot of justice, you could lobby for affordable housing in Atlanta.
I have heard some people say that advocating for social justice is communistic. What do you have to say about that?
I'm glad you asked about that. I take a deep interest in this topic because my personal social justice hero, Dom Helder Camara, once said the famous quote, "When I give food to the poor, they call me a saint. When I ask why the poor have no food, they call me a communist." I can relate with this because although City of Refuge is mostly charitable, I try as a person to work for social justice by killing poverty at its source, in the ways that I just listed in the previous questions. The social justice communist debate was continued by Glenn Beck and Jim Wallace. Glenn Beck does not like social justice and calls it communistic all the time. He even said, if you're near social justice, you should run. On the other hand, Jim Wallace believes that social justice is the heart of the Bible, which I agree with. You have to think about the people who work for social justice and ask yourself, are these people communist? 1. MLK. He worked for justice to end segregation peacefully. No, he would not be a communist. 2. Dorothy Day. She founded the Catholic Worker in New York and was a pacifist and is now a saint. Don't think so. 3. Jesus Christ. Do I even need an explanation? He worked his whole life to teach us about social justice. There's no way he's a communist. We should believe in social justice because a commitment to it is an essential part of Christian life. It is taught in the New and the Old Testament. It may be challenging and uncomfortable, but it is definitely necessary.
I've seen your great debate episode about libertarianism and egalitarianism. Which do you favor and why?
First of all, thanks so much for your support. I could not be a celebrity today if I did not have my loyal fans. I'm up to 83 views on YouTube. Regarding the question, considering that I started a charitable organization and strongly support social justice, I tend to favor the egalitarian view. Libertarians emphasize individual liberties, which make them not so good with helping the least fortunate, which clearly I care about because I started City of Refuge. They do not believe in distributive justice, which is responsibilities that society has for safeguarding essential human rights and ensuring the just distribution of Earth's resources with special regard for people whose needs are unmet. There is no redistribution of wealth because it cuts equal opportunity. In Monopoly, the libertarians tend to be the number ones, who do not help the number fours and number fives. In egalitarianism, the veil of ignorance believes in distributive justice and that society is equal and fair. You create a society where the bottom is safe. If you think from the perspective of number 4 or number 5, or if you didn't know whether you'd be a number 1 or a number 5, you would make sure the bottom is good enough to have essential needs met. There's a difference principle that says inequality is okay only if to benefit the least well off. The number 5s in Monopoly might like this because it protects their rights. I lean towards egalitarians because I believe that the least well off in society should always be protected.
Carlin, wait a minute. Your organization and your answers today seem to show that you have a strong faith background. Is Scripture an important part of your life?
Yes, of course it is. Both the Old Testament and New Testament themes have shaped who I am as a person today. The Old Testament taught me a respect for human life, a just distribution of wealth, and a special concern for the vulnerable. The just distribution of wealth says that the natural resources that people need to survive must be fairly distributed. When the ownership of natural resources becomes unbalanced, those resources must be periodically redistributed. Distributive justice does not mean equal, it just means fair. This has to do with City of Refuge. The inequality gap, which has caused poverty, has forced people to come to City of Refuge with no other option. We must treat these vulnerable people who come to City of Refuge with compassion and generosity. The old law was only the first step in God's plan. The next step was the new law, which emphasizes God's love and mercy. The new love we receive from Christ calls us, like he called me with City of Refuge, to put love into practice by performing acts of charity and building just social structures. Jesus welcomed a societal outcast, and he calls us to do the same. Luke chapter 18, verse 22 says, "You still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me." Jesus taught us that people who care for those who are poor and vulnerable, like the homeless of Atlanta, are placed at God's right hand and receive the gift of eternal life.
Carlin, can you explain to my viewers what Catholic social teaching is?
Why, sure. Catholic social teaching is a set of documents, a set of ideas, a tradition of thought, and also a call to action. Officially, only the popes and bishops can publish things to become CST. One of my favorite CST excerpts by Pope Paul VI from Populorum Progresso perfectly explains my reasoning behind founding City of Refuge. Article 76 says, "When we fight poverty and oppose the unfair conditions of the present, we are not just promoting human well-being. We are also furthering man's spiritual and moral development, and hence we are benefiting the whole human race. For peace is not simply the absence of warfare, based on a precarious balance of power. It is fashioned by efforts directed day after day towards the establishment of the ordered universe willed by God, with a more perfect form of justice among men. Overall, Catholic social teaching is the teaching of the Church that examines human society in the light of the gospel and church tradition.
What themes of Catholic social teaching did you found City of Refuge on?
I founded City of Refuge on solidarity, the preferential option for the poor and vulnerable, responsibilities and rights, and the life and dignity of the human person. The life and dignity of the human person is foundational, and it says that all human beings are made in the image and likeness of God. Everyone has a God-given dignity, and we are called to respect and protect human life and dignity. This is also means that we should help people live life to the fullest, physically, socially, mentally, and spiritually. Rights and responsibilities says that all human beings have a right to life and to having their basic needs met, such as food, which is served at City Refuge. Along with these rights comes responsibilities, such as contributing to and participating in society and the common good. Probably the most major is the option for the poor and vulnerable. There is a special concern for the poor because they need it more. This is rooted in the universal destination of goods, which says the goods of the world belong to everyone. There are two parts. The first involves freely choosing to become friends or partners with those who are poor and taking on their problems as our problems. This is exactly what is done when doing service at City of Refuge, because you truly are taking on their problems as your own. The second part is a commitment to take action to transform any injustices that prevent them from realizing their God-given dignity. We must be a voice to the voiceless. Solidarity is understanding that all people are part of the same human family despite our differences. We are all connected through the mystical body of Christ, which says we are responsible for each other because we are all one body. Last question, please. I'm exhausted.
Carlin, I know that you learned about the spectrum of violence and conflict resolution in my class. So what I want to know now is, do you consider yourself a nonviolent person?
Thanks, Ms. Clausen. Yes, I try to live my life according to the consistent ethic of life, which is from womb to tomb. I believe God calls all of us to live in peace, and the only way to make peace is to work for justice, which is partially why I started City Refuge, even though it is mostly charitable. Violence is any human action that causes harm to the life or dignity of another person, and this can be psychological, social, spiritual, or physical. The spiral of violence, termed by my hero, Dom Helder Camara, shows how violence and injustice are related and rooted in the tendency towards revenge and retaliation. There is always a basic injustice that starts the spiral, and this is followed by a violent response, then a violent counter-response, and the spiral can only be broken by stopping the injustice. Jesus commands us to love our enemies, but creating peaceful societies requires just as much work as fighting a war. What I love about nonviolence is that when we love our enemies, we show them the love of God. Thank you, paparazzi, for your astounding questions. Now I can clearly see why City of Refuge is charitable, but also works for social justice. Thank you so much, Carlin Zaprowski, for being our special guest tonight. Have a great Thanksgiving break, y'all.